Welcome, true believers and newcomers alike. Spider-Man fan Lino Morris here as your host and recollector of events revolved around a movie that has lived in many people's hearts, as well as yours truly. Today, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man celebrates its 20th anniversary. You deserve it! This is definitely a movie worthy of celebration. One that deserves all the praise it got at the time of release, and even now in present day, as it has mostly held up. But I want to take you back to a time before its eventual release and what my point of view was.
When I was a little boy, I was introduced to Spider-Man through the 90s animated series and had various action figures from the toy lineup. Every once in a while, I have flashes of what that era looked like, and it's one that I wish I could fully remember. Spider-Man the Animated Series is what got me into Spider-Man, along with comic book purchases at my local grocery stores, when they still carried comics. Remember that? I got like 2 or 3 issues offhand.
Man, I really want to go back to the past, but that's not what this video's about. Okay, stay focused. Stay focused.
The 90s animated series is what got me familiar with the mythos and made me a fan. I love that show so much, and the PS1 title furthered that love when it was released in 2000. I hardly knew what I was doing, so I had to play that game on
Kid Mode.
But nowadays I know that game in and out to the point that I can beat it on the hardest difficulty, no problem. The more I got to know about this character, and the more I saw Spider-Man, the more I liked and was fascinated by the very marvel of him. He was larger than life to me. As a kid, I couldn't explain to you why I loved the character so much, I just did. Today though, I can tell you why his powers and costume design are simply eye-catching. There's no way this character wouldn't catch your intrigue by appearance alone. And thanks to his character, supporting cast, and stories, he's one that no one would forget. And soon, not just comic fans and children would be sharing this sentiment.
Sit back and enjoy the ride.
My eyes widened when I saw the web. Spider-Man's real? Spider-Man's real? He's real! 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 Now, I'll admit, the teaser was too much for 5-year-old me to handle. It was mind-shattering. I thought Spider-Man was real, and with those VFX, it would have fooled any kid into believing that he's actually swinging from a thread, building to building. It made me lose my mind. I had seen something like that in the few comics I had, the 90s animated series, and took control of it with 32-bit polygons. But seeing it in live action for the first time is something I'll never forget. I wanted to see more. And I wasn't the only one, as Spider-Man was shaping up to be a huge blockbuster, with fans, film critics, and general audiences alike lining up to see it. And so the advertising behemoth that was known as Spider-Mania began. I remember throughout the summer of 2002, aside from lightsabers or clone troopers, that Spider-Man was everywhere. He was on Dr. Pepper cans. Squeezable web shooters that shot out water were sold in cereals. Remember that? Of course I got cereal just for the web shooters inside. I just wish I still had them. Spider-Man themed Pop-Tarts, those were actually good. Yeah, they need to bring those back. Lego sets, which I still have. Yeah. Regular toy sets and toy accessories, a video game, I'll get to that in a minute, and reprints of classic comics from the Silver Age era. I still remember on the Walmart store shelves, I swear to you, I saw reprints of Amazing Fantasy number 15, Amazing Spider-Man number 1, and Amazing Spider-Man number 12. I even touched the reprints of Amazing Fantasy number 15 and Amazing Spider-Man number 12 and skimmed through them. On the low, as I was skimming through it, I was thinking that it was just like the 90s cartoon, when in actuality it was the other way around. Advertising for the movie was on all the time, and I always got excited and jumped around, like a little kid does. And I would especially lose it when my favorite TV spot came on. It was this one.
You're changing. I would do exactly the same thing at your age. On May 3rd.
Not exactly.
You're invited to suit up. With great power comes great responsibility. And swing into action.
Wanna take you on a roller coaster.
Spider-Man.
You do too much. You're not Superman.
Rated
That
PG-13.
TV spot hyped me up so much. You just don't know. When the movie finally released, everyone was aware of Spider-Man's greatness, from fans praising it and seeing it multiple times to celebrities and critics not familiar with the character liking it to general audiences helping break box office records. It was the first movie to gross $100 million at the box office in its opening weekend. And I didn't get to watch it. My parents didn't want to take me, even though I begged them. They thought that a superhero movie wasn't something they wanted to watch too. I bet my mom would have watched it if it was Sam Raimi's Wonder Woman, though. My mother just wasn't a big superhero fan just yet. She was still months away before casually catching Justice League every night and realizing that superheroes are more than just adults in costumes fighting other adults in costumes. That they have complexity to them. So I had no way of watching the movie. I was only 6. It's not like they could have left me in the theater to watch it, but I would have preferred if they did. I couldn't let go of the fact that they wouldn't let me see the movie. I asked them every couple of days to see if they could take me to watch it. I was going crazy. Kids at school were talking about it, the TV spots were still on, and even teachers were asking if I had seen it. To ease the pain, they let me rent a game per usual from Blockbuster, and there it was, Spider-Man. If I couldn't watch the movie, then I'd vent through the game tie-in that was advertised. Lucky for me, that game was solid and kept my mind off the movie for a couple weeks as I re-rented it. I will say that at one point I thought that all the events that happened in the game were events that happened in the movie. 20 years later, I see most of the events as ones that were unseen side adventures for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed the game, but I wanted to see the movie. By then the movie was already gone from my local theater, and this was probably about July at that time, so it was too late for me to watch it. I was still determined. It wasn't just a movie, it was a privilege. Summer turned to winter, and that's when I was given a VHS copy of the movie by my grandfather. There it was, in the palm of my hand. As soon as I got home, I put it in the VHS player, and my childhood changed forever. It was the movie that I've loved before I even liked movies. It captured the essential bits of Spider-Man while also giving a new spin on the tale. I didn't know it at the time, but it was an adaptation of 2 Spider-Man storylines, Amazing Fantasy number 15 and The Night Gwen Stacy Died. Every actor looked the part, they looked like the respective characters they were portraying. The writing kept me engaged throughout, it kept my attention, and the Danny Elfman Spider-Man score has been ingrained in my mind ever since my first viewing of this movie. Sam Raimi's directing gave me a sense of wonder and awe, and it was truly a Spider-Man movie made by a Spider-Man fan, to which one day I'd like to thank him personally for. The cherry on top was that the last song you hear is the 60s Spider-Man theme.
In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time.
Amazing. After my first viewing, I was forever a Spider-Man fan. I've seen this movie so many times that before it was popular to quote it, I did from time to time. Now that I think about it, I watched it so many times that I wore out the VHS tape after a few years. This movie was a landmark in cinema. It went toe-to-toe with Star Wars and won. The impact it left was not just several parodies of scenes from the movie, the one being parodied the most is the Upside Down Kiss. But in my eyes, this was the movie that paved the way for superheroes to be taken more seriously and they could work in live action. You have Spider-Man in his red and blue suit, and it worked. So many possibilities opened up from this alone, and did they capitalize on it and continue on faithfully bringing these characters to screen? Well, not everyone in charge was Sam Raimi. To a lot of fans, this movie is a lot of people's first Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's portrayal will always be a special one to me, because when I think of childhood, I see Tobey Maguire. I always wanted to meet Sam Raimi after seeing the behind the scenes of the film. I had a massive crush on Kirsten Dunst, and I've had a thing for redheads ever since 2002. This movie means a lot to me. It taught me the fundamentals of what makes a movie great, let alone what makes a good adaptation. It was possibly the movie that got me into movies, and may have sparked my love for the medium. It was, and will forever remain, a childhood classic. Well, true believers and newcomers alike, that's my tale with this movie. It did a lot for me. And no matter what life holds in store for me, I will always remember these quotes. I'm Lena Mars of the MCA Productions crew, and as always, true believers and newcomers alike.
Whatever life holds in store for me, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.